Okay, so we'll share and then we'll go carry on. Okay. Okay. So okay, I think we can start.
Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to this edition of the Idle Park Talk Show. It is always a pleasure to have you. Today, we are continuing on our previous episodes of the US Israel Iran war. We are in a new phase of negotiations right now. Today, Trump just extended the negotiations, the ceasefire. I'm sorry. So, we're going to talk about that and then maybe talk a little bit about the spat between the president and the Pope. It's almost history now, but some media stations are still trying to keep it alive. So that is the main topic for today. Again, if this is something that interests you, please let us know through your comment. Request to join if you want to come on and share your insights. We have a social media page on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. If this is something that interests you, we would like you to subscribe, share our content, and maybe request to come on our show. Again, thank you. I guess we just have to dive in. So we have another ceasefire on a ceasefire, and the president today extended the ceasefire to what most people, and I think they are right to say it looks like an indefinite ceasefire, unto the point where Iran is able to come up with a united front in order to negotiate. My initial assessment is many on the Iranian side are going to look at it as a win. They have a permanent, not permanent, but indefinite ceasefire. We don't know what is going to happen. Um, I mean, the leaders are dead, but there's still, like we've talked before, structure in place to govern to govern and decide on matters that concern Iran. So, no matter how you look at it, this is um, uh, much welcome news for Iran. Um, we don't know how that's going to affect the economy of the world, if it's going to ease things. But just to be clear, there's still a blockade in place. There's still a military blockade in place. So um, that's my thought. I thought Iran is going to claim this as a win. A lot of people see this as a weakness for Donald Trump. Um, Again, the war is beginning to extend to a point where I think majority of Americans will be like, okay, let us know what is it that you actually achieved and what are your goals. So you have to be clear about that. I gave the president about this time, especially when I think Americans will be like fed up. There's a little bit of relief at the gas stations, maybe the grocery prices. There was a rebound in the stock markets today, so there's some relief on that front because of the ceasefire. So I think we're at a stage where Trump has to really think of backing his back out. But with a ceasefire that is indefinite, as many may interpret, I don't think it's very favorable for him right now. Um, Iran, though they have taken so many losses, will count this as a win. They were able to get seize some ships from the Strait of Hormuz. I know Liberia ship was seized and stuff like that, but there's still a blockade in place by the U.S. government. So it's just interesting times in in this war. That is my assessment. I hope it can go into something permanent. I am curious to hear what you have to say.
I mean, clearly nobody likes war. I'm
Mhm.
sure even Donald Trump, who has started a couple of wars in the last couple of months, will tell you that he doesn't like war. And I don't think Iran too wants to be fighting. Iran has been some sort of peaceful country, depending on who you're talking to a very large extent. So Iran hasn't really attacked anyone in the past couple of years. So yes, I think it's a relief for me, and I guess for everyone out here, that they are talking as opposed to fighting. Too many people have
Mhm.
died so far.
Mhm.
Economic toll, not only on Iran but on the US as well, Canada where I am, and the rest of the world. There is a significant economic toll on everyone. The price of fuel, of course, skyrocket. I hear a barrel of I read a barrel of oil is about $105 and maybe climbing. So yes, the announcement of the extension of the ceasefire kind of cool the temperature a little bit. And so, prices are kind of dropping. I went through the pump today. It's about $1.55, which is a significant drop from $1.75, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's cooling down. The stock market, just like you mentioned, is kind of picking up, and some sort of relief for most people. However, the
Mhm.
war isn't exactly over. It is just a ceasefire, which means they can either get back to fighting depending on what happens in
Right.
the next couple of days, or they might go back to the negotiating table to further the conversation. The topic of or the caption on our show today is negotiating to return to the negotiating table, because I guess that is what is exactly happening, right?
Mhm.
America and Iran have sat a couple of times in the past couple of months, so they all know each other's position. I think they've gotten to a point where there's a stalemate and they seem to need time. Each side, if you ask me, seem to need time to kind of readjust or rethink what their position is. America has their 15-point plan.
Restock.
Maybe they have to go back and rework on those plans and see which ones they can maybe they can do away with or compromise on. I think Iran too needs to do the same with their own 10-point plans, right? But at the end of the day, this extension is clearly a strategic victory for Iran. Iran has been pummeled throughout the last almost 45 going to 50 days, right? So in terms of the military aspect of the war, yes, the United States has won. I mean, nobody would have expected the United States to not, uh, destroy Iran, right? But Iran is still here, like you said. Their leaders are dead, but they have a structure in place, and that structure seems to be working. So Iran is still here. This is a strategic victory because Iran could interpret this as we are strong enough to the point where the United States is willing to take a step back and maybe rethink their strategy. If the United States uh, had not received the kind of resistance that Iran put forth, they would be fighting. They will not be talking about negotiations. They will not be talking about the ceasefire. It will just be an ongoing battle, as we know. I mean, there's clearly a good reason for us to assume that the United States has suffered losses not in terms of personnel, but losses in terms of their logistics, and losses in terms of just the prestige and the weight that they had in terms of their position in the world, right? America fighting Iran and struggling to win, it tells you that America is weak, or maybe not weaker than they were 10, 20 years ago. That is what it tells me. That they fight with Iran to it's a stalemate, if you ask my opinion, right? So I would say that yes, Iran is going to consider this a strategic victory. America is definitely not in a very strong position at this point, and I think both parties need to go back, review their terms, maybe eventually come back to the table. What I've heard in the media today is that there are back channel conversations between the different parties, um,
Mm-hmm.
talking about coming back to the negotiating table, right? So they are negotiating about a negotiation, which Trump hopes to see in the next couple of days. But at this point, we don't know where this thing is going to head to. Um, Indefinite ceasefire, or would Trump be coming out with timelines at some point? I think that's where we are
Yeah, yeah.
of this
Mhm.
evening. Yes.
Yeah, good assessment. But I think President Trump's position is really clear. I think he came out an outing recently, a couple of days ago, and said 99% of what we want is that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I think we can go around all the fact beating around the bush, but I think that is the crux of the matter. According to President Trump and many presidents past, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Now, is Iran willing to give that up? I don't know. I think that's a stalemate in this negotiation. So I'm not sure what their own points are. They're talking about other things, or reparations, payment of damages, or control the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, those things are
Right.
important to Iran. But I think um, Trump has been pretty clear. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I mean, you don't have to go back to last year. You have to go back to 1980 when he's been making the statements. You have to look at other American presidents who have made the statement. So I don't know that it's that ambiguous. And I think, at least from President Trump's point of view, it is clear what he wants. And Iran, it's clear, but they have more points and they have more demands. So I don't know where we go from here. Iran, I think they still want to reserve the right to enrich uranium, and they'll be going against Trump's wish for the end to this war. So, where do you think? I say this as someone who doesn't really know where this goes from there, because I think President Trump has been pretty clear about Iran not having a nuclear weapon. Where do we go from here? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I just to I think it's important to clarify that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon. Iran is not in the
Mhm.
process of
Right,
acquiring a nuclear weapon. Iran simply enriched uranium, which is different from wanting to acquire nuclear weapon. I think for me,
right,
that is where the ambiguity is with Trump's
right.
demand, right? Are you saying that Iran cannot enrich uranium at all, which is Iran's right to do? Or are you saying that they cannot develop a nuclear weapon? Those are two separate, independent things. Because
They're intricably
enrich,
related to each
again,
other.
it's ambiguous. Iran,
It's not.
Donald
It's
Trump
I
needs
don't
to
know.
be specifically clear. Are you saying I cannot enrich, Or are you saying I cannot develop a nuclear weapon? For me, those are two separate things. Because again, uranium is not only used for nuclear weapons. Uranium are used for medical reasons. They are,
60%
they
uranium.
are used. I mean, you are in the medical field, you would probably know better, right?
I
Used
don't.
for
Yeah.
cancer treatment and other kinds of treatment. So are you saying that Iran should abandon its capacity to enrich uranium to a certain extent needed in their energy development and for health reasons, or are you saying that they cannot develop nuclear weapons? Because if you say they cannot enrich, Iran continues to insist that it is a right of the Iranian state to enrich uranium within the limits of international law. The agreement which they had with Obama said 3%, they enrich uranium up until 3%, right? So I think Donald Trump is eventually going to end up with a JCPOA a part two, which is okay. You would have to enrich to a certain degree. Maybe they say 2% just because it cannot be 3 because Obama had 3%. Maybe they say 1% because again, but Iran continues to insist that they have a right to enrich uranium within the limits of whatever law that you want to put in place, right? So again, I think Donald Trump needs to be really clear. Are we talking about nuclear weapons, which Iran doesn't have and does not intend to have? Or are we talking about enrichment, which is a whole separate thing, in my opinion? I know you disagree. You think it's one
I,
thing, but in my opinion, these are two
right.
separate
Yeah.
issues. So
I mean,
and
yeah.
I do agree with you that this is the bone of contention. Everything else is secondary. The
Right.
primary issue between Iran and the United States is not the Strait of Hormuz, is not anything else but the nuclear issue. I think that is the biggest obstacle for
Right.
any resolution of
Yeah, so that's why I think all the 15-point plan, 20-point plan, 10-point plan, it doesn't mean anything because this is the crux of the issue,
yeah.
the ability to develop nuclear weapon. And sure, where we disagree is the uranium part. You say Iran is not, or they don't have the right. Sure, they do have a right. 3% uranium is what was given them by the IACA. They said that is enough for civilian use, for
Right.
medical use, for whatever I use it. But recent data shows that they're at 60%.
Mhm.
And Trump is concerned. And according to Trump and his negotiators with Koff and Kushner, they said Iran said we have what 440 kgs of uranium that we are ready to produce 11 bombs. So that's what they
That
said.
could,
And
that could,
apparently
that could.
that
Let's
could.
use the language properly.
The
That could be
of
used,
course that,
and
that
that's the
that could
point.
be this.
It's not a
That
threat. It's just a statement of
it
fact
is.
that was stated.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna be repeating ourselves again because we've
No, we are
discussed this
not. We are
before.
going to move on. We are going to move on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is vague. If they put 3% and you go to 60%, okay, the question becomes like, why are you? Why? And then more to that, you're concealing it away from international observers. So it's a legitimate question to ask. Why are you up to 60%? So, um, obviously, the Trump administration views that differently. You on the you
Iran views
kind
that
of see the
differently. Yes, right.
Iran views that differently. You're kind of in agreement with the Iranians. But yeah, it's a concept. It's like okay. Um, Remember in Cameroon we use gunpowder for gun and celebrations and whatever. You have you can only use 3%. You can only develop 3%. When you start developing up to 60%, then we know you have plans to attack. I mean, you've stated that you wanted to kill us and whatever, but we've told you 3%. Now you're 6%. And we have historical data that you've already attacked us, and your wish is to eliminate us. Why do we have to let you continue to enrich gunpowder to have the ability to come and shoot at us? Okay, so that's how I look at it. Um, America still views Iran as an existential threat. Maybe not immediately, but if they have a nuclear weapon, America and Israel becomes an existential threat for them. That's how they view it. I mean, Iran too has stated that clearly that they don't think has a legitimate right to exist. So
Is
it's
America
it
speaking? Are you speaking on behalf of Israel? Is America speaking on behalf of America? I mean, Trump wasn't Trump America first. Is he saying that Iran is an imminent threat to the United States, or is he saying that Iran is an imminent threat to Israel? I'm not sure which is which,
Because
because
it's part.
again you can't
Sorry.
you can't conflate the two.
Hmm.
It's two separate nations with different agendas, with different goals and different motivations, right? While Israel is motivated to destabilize Iran, to execute, kill all their leaders, so that they have no challenge in the Middle East. America doesn't necessarily need to have the same goals. America's goals, objectives in Iran are significantly different. If America is focusing on nuclear weapons and Israel is focusing on destabilization and regime change and termination of the state of Iran, then it's hard for this. It's hard for America to speak with both sides of the mouth, and I think that's also why this negotiation is even more difficult, because America is going into negotiation and speaking on behalf of Israel. That should not be the case. If Israel wants to have a negotiation with Iran, they should have a negotiation with Iran, if at all. America cannot be representing two separate independent states in one negotiation. It doesn't make any sense. And if you go by that, the, the possibility of arriving at a resolution is going to be even more complicated.
Well,
That is
yeah.
that is how I
Sorry.
see it.
I don't know that they are different. I mean, many Iranian leaders have said Israel is the first devil, then America is the second devil. So there's clearly a hierarchy in this thing. They have to deal with Israel first, then they move next to America, because they see America as a big brother of Israel. They think Israel only exists because they have American support. I mean, you agree with that? Um, um,
I think no,
Israel,
no. Just to clarify, if we continue, sorry, Ghana.
yeah.
Israel has the right to exist, but my point with Israel is exist within the boundaries that were created for you. There was an agreement when the state of Israel was created. These are your boundaries. Exist within your boundaries. My issue with Israel is when you go out and colonize and seize territory that isn't yours. I mean,
Like
imagine the level of confusion.
territories like what?
Gaza, for example, getting into Gaza,
Israel.
and Israel controls Gaza, whether I agree that or not. The West Bank, for example, the portions of Lebanon that is within Israel control. There are portions of Syria that Israel has seized, portions of Egypt. So live within your boundaries, your original boundaries. Live within those boundaries, and I don't believe that I will have an issue with Israel existing, as long as they are living within that.
I don't know that if that's entirely
It's
accurate.
simple.
If Israel controlled Gaza, why would they attack October 7th?
I mean, Israel control. I mean,
Well, they control their border.
they might
They
have
control their
failed.
border.
But that is the point. If you control someone's border, you basically control them. You control what goes in, you control what goes out, you control who goes in, you control who goes out, you control the skies, you basically control everything. So you cannot
How
sit
so?
back and
How did the
you
planning
cannot.
of October 7th happen? How did the planning
It is
of
a
October
failure
7th
of the
happen?
Israeli security system. Has nothing to do with
That's
the
part
fact
of
that
it.
they control.
But
It is a
but
failure. It's not
but,
because they
but
don't have control, it's because they failed in
so
their
they don't really
attempt.
control everything then. Because you can't say you control a place that has no Israeli living in, that Israel exited on in 2005 and handed it to Gaza. They control their borders. They do have Gazans who cross the border every single day to come in and
And they
work.
check.
So
They
and they
check.
check them.
If I
Won't you check someone who's coming to your
if
country?
I surround your house, Ghana, if I surround your house
Mhm.
and I decide what comes in your house, what kind of food comes in, I decide who comes in as well. Which of your friends come, how they go. I decide whether you drive. I decide which. I
Right.
basically control you. Basically, that is
Well,
control.
I control what enters your country, but I don't control everything.
You control. I mean, you collect tax on their behalf. What do you mean by they don't? What your argument now is that Israel does not control Gaza.
Before the October 7th, no.
No, before they did.
What do you mean before? They control they control things that got in and got out.
Everything,
Because,
everything.
well, but the point is, if you have people whose sole goal is to destroy you.
So now you are going to admit that we control, but now you're giving a reason
No,
why
no,
they
no.
don't
But I don't
control.
know. I don't know that. I don't know that is complete control. Because if they had
Again,
complete control, they would have known that the tunnel's been built. They would have known that those that they are letting to come in and work in Israel are actively planning to murder other Israelis. They should have known that. Okay, so it's a little bit absurd to say
see,
that people who have led this land since 2000 and 2005, they forcefully took out all Israel's settlers in Gaza
so
since 2005. There's
what
nothing.
about land seized from Lebanon? What
I
about
don't I don't know about the
what
details.
about
I don't
land
know
seized
about
from
it.
Syria? What about disputed lands with Egypt? So you are going to
Yeah.
claim that
Well, but to come to your case,
Israel has been within has lived within the borders of
um,
the creation? Is that what you're
no,
trying to say?
I know the land has changed hands
Fine.
up and
Now
down.
you are
Isn't
going to admit that it's not changed
I
hands
know,
up and
but
down.
because
They
it's
have seized and colonized. And where does the term settlements come from?
I don't know. Maybe you can
I mean,
educate
common
me on that.
sense, basically common sense. Where would
You
the
bring
term
Israeli settlers, yeah,
mean that you take somebody's land and you settle on it? That is where
right.
the term comes from. And it's not terms that were created by, these are terms that are used even in the United Nations,
Hmm.
right? So
Hmm.
everybody
Yeah,
recognizes the fact that Israel is not living within the borders at the time of its creation. That is a fact. Anyway, back to the conversation. Now, I'm
yeah,
saying that my argument is it would be hard to arrive at a resolution with Iran if the United States is not only representing the United States but also trying to represent Israel
Israel.
at the same
Hmm.
time. In my
Right,
opinion, it complicates matters because in as much as the United States has its own agenda and has its own objectives, they have to also defend and protect the agenda and the objectives
right.
of
Of Israel,
Israel,
right?
Israel, right?
And to be fair too, Trump has shown a lot of has imposed a lot of restraint on the Israeli
Agreed.
side.
Agreed.
He's called them that you guys are doing too much. Chill, hold on. Right now he's negotiating a peace deal between Lebanon and Israel. And by the way, Hezbollah is actually blasting the Lebanese government for going into negotiation with Israel.
Right.
Okay, so these things are very complicated. I mean, if the government of Lebanon is trying to negotiate with Israel, but the organization Hezbollah is like, no, you don't represent us, the war still continues. It's very tricky how you deal with this situation. So, um, um, you make a fair point that America has to defend the rights of Israel and makes it difficult. That is true. I hope they can get a united front because Israel has its own agendas, America has its own agenda, and sometimes it can be tricky to get everybody on the same page.
Mhm.
But I think Netanyahu respect Trump. Sorry, I think he has a lot of. I think shaking, right?
Go
I
ahead.
think
Speak up.
he shows some decorum when he's dealing with Trump. He said multiple times that Trump is the greatest ally of Israel, and he has said himself that he admires Trump's decisive decision in the issues. Yeah, I totally agree with you that it might be challenging getting two nations who have slightly different agendas to be able to come to the table.
Um. So, what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz? Because
I
minors. So initially before February 28th,
right, yeah,
there was you would not hear. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people did not know anything about the Strait of
the
Hormuz,
straight of them. No, I
right?
did not.
So by the time America and Israel attacked Iran February 28th, the Strait of Hormuz was open and free for navigation. Iran had
Mhm.
nothing to do with it. Every ships could
Right.
come and go, leave the ports, come and go as they pleased. Right now, America attacks to the extent where Iran says, okay, we need a little bit of leverage, so we
Mhm.
now are going to control the Strait of
Mhm.
Hormuz. We are going to determine which ships go through and go out, right? So now Iran now takes control. I mean, you can call it a blockade if you want, but they decide to control the strait. The ships that are allowed to go through are either neutral to this conflict or
Yeah.
are our allies. If you are connected to the United States or to Israel in any way, you can't go through.
Yeah.
Again, there was some sort of free movement. There were tankers going back and forth the strait. America now says, okay, we are blocking the blockade. So Iran's blockade is getting
Yeah.
blocked. You block from that end, we are going to block from here. You determine what leaves the Strait of Hormuz. We determine what leaves the Gulf,
Yeah.
uh, that area. Now, Donald Trump, Iran, America arrive at some sort of an agreement, ceasefire agreement, right? No, they agree on
Right.
a ceasefire. In good faith,
Mm-hmm.
Iran says, okay, I am going to open the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
And then free movement gets back again with at least limited control. Donald Trump says, yeah, we might have reached a ceasefire, but this blockade is going to stay.
Yeah.
And this blockade is only staying here because we want to control what comes out of the ports of Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Not every other ship can go through. They don't care. But if you're stopped by Iran or you're going to Iran, well, we would have to figure out what is going on and determine whether or not these
Right.
tankers or this ship can go through. The reason
Mm-hmm.
is, of course, they want to limit Iran's ability to trade. So either sell things of energy, petrol out of Iran or import into Iran. America wants to control that. It's kind of a choke,
Mm-hmm.
trying to choke Iran, right?
Yeah.
Economic impact, see how bad Iran takes it. Now Iran says, well, we've opened the strait in good faith with the expectation that you guys unblock and move away, right? And
Mm-hmm.
trade has to be free. America says, no, we are not doing that. So Iran says, okay, in that case, we are blocking. So as of today, Iran has gone back to its control of the strait.
Right.
America
Mm-hmm.
continues to block, and this again has reduced tanker flow or shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. Where,
Yeah.
where are we really going with this? Can you, I don't know, figure out Trump's
Right.
logic
Well,
or
you remember how Iran has moved to a pressure point to what they can influence and how they can control influence and how they can force America to the negotiation table. It turns out since birds have learned how to fly without perching, hunters will also learn how to shoot without missing. So, and I love analogies. If you block that nobody should enter your neighborhood. Okay, this is the main road in our neighborhood. Nobody's gonna enter. We are going to control who's enter, and we're going to attack you because we have planted mines and we'll be able to bomb any car that comes through. Then I come and say I control the whole city. Who's winning? So you control people who cannot enter your neighborhood, but I control the whole city of who enter the city and who leaves the city, which also includes people who come to your own neighborhood. So I think that was a very wise strategy from the Trump administration. Um, um, it seems to have caught the Iranians off guard the way taking the Strait of Hormuz as a bargaining chip caught the Americans off guard in the beginning. I think the Trump administration are trying to put a pressure point and are beating up the pressure because they can't get money from the sales of oil. And the place that you came to control, we are controlling a bigger access to more states, more countries, and more organizations being involved. So I think people are trying to apply pressure where they can. America is um um using a strategic point that covers the whole of the strait and access in and out. So I don't know where this leads to, but I'm just saying because birds have learned to fly without perching, hunters have also learned how to shoot without missing. So we'll see. It's a tussle, but I think controlling the Gulf and whatever goes to or not to the Strait of Hormuz, but having that control on both sides, it's a strategic win for the Americans. So I don't
So
know. I don't know how Iran
before
gets
you
out of this.
before you before you get into who's winning strategically, I think we should kind
Hmm.
of clarify, not clarify, but lay down a little bit of a groundwork here.
Right.
Um, just so we know, we've heard reports that about 31 Iranian tankers or ships have gone through that blockade,
Hmm. Right.
right? So now we are looking at the effectiveness of the blockade. This is a very big. It's like you blockade is an ocean, right? Which is a busy ocean
Yeah.
and lots of tankers going through. So very clearly, America does not have the manpower or the assets in place to
Hmm.
effectively blockade or control this area, and that is why Iranian ship, cargo, and tankers have passed through. I mean, I'm sure you will not dispute. Is all over the media about 31 so far. So yes, there is definitely a blockade. Is porous, maybe intentionally so, because again, America needs fuel to get out, so that they can
Hmm.
keep the price of fuel to a at least manageable, right? So
Right.
again, it could be
Iran
intentional.
needs it too.
It could, sorry.
Iran needs it too.
Of course, Iran needs it too. So they could intentionally be allowing these tankers to go by again because they need this, they need the market to be supplied,
Yeah.
or it's just because it's hard for the United States to kind of man this
Yeah.
blockade, right? What I know, again, it's an operational and a logistic nightmare. Considering that the operation to blockade Iranian ports involves at this point 10,000 US troops,
Hmm.
17 warships, and more than 100 aircraft. So this is information from Central Command, CENTCOM. This is
Yeah.
what they are. These are the assets that they are using at this time to blockade
Hmm.
Iran, and yet, and they still not very successful in carrying out an effective blockade, right? So
Hmm.
this is a logistical issue, man. A lot is needed, and it's expensive. So
Yeah.
it's
It's not
very
cheap.
costly for the United States to have to have a 10,000 troops just sitting there in the ocean trying to make sure people don't go by,
Yeah.
17 warships, and 100 aircraft. I mean,
Yeah.
you can imagine the cost of
Very costly.
affecting this blockade. Now, the again, I understand. I understand the reasoning behind this, but
Yeah.
the question now is it worth the cost, or is it worth the risk? And the reason why I ask is because, see, Iran is not the United States. Iran is not Europe. These are
Hmm.
people who understand what hardship looks like, right?
Right.
These are people who understand hardship. And in my opinion, I think Iranians are a little bit more resilient, which means they can sit this for a very long time.
Right.
Now, is the United States ready to have their assets bogged down in the Gulf for too long? I mean, considering that they also are dealing with Russia, they also have China
Hmm.
in their crosshair, and then when they bring all their assets from everywhere else, from from Asia and the Baltics down to the Middle East, now
Hmm.
how are they juggling China, Russia, Iran, when everything seems to be focused in the Gulf at this point? I think that is something that I know that the Americans are thinking about, but I also know that this is something that the Iranians too are considering. Like,
Right.
we can resist these guys for as long as it takes. Even
Right.
when Donald Trump say we are going to bomb the bridges, it's going to be a bridge day, and it's going to be a power plant day, I don't think the Iranians were very moved by that, because again, Iran, I'm sure they can go without power for days. It's not America where if you don't have your heater on, or if then the riot probably starts after 2 days. Iran, they can go for long without lights, without
Yeah.
internet, without all this. So they are a little bit more resilient
Hmm.
than a typical. Western European American
Yeah.
citizen. So I guess my question is the United States ready for a long war? Because it seems Iran is.
You said a few things. It is expensive. I agree with you. Any war is expensive. America has 10,000 troops there. So that comes with a lot of human capital to
Mhm.
be able to put these people. That comes with a lot of material capital to be able to put these people and fund them and carry them back and forth to their destination and feed them, keep them on standby should anything happen. All of this so that Iran cannot have a all this so that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I guess that's a cost that Trump is willing to go to prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon. So you can tell how serious this is to him, how serious it is to the American, at least the people who support Trump right now. So it is serious. Easy. It costs a lot of money. It's a tax bill that is going to be put on the American taxpayer. But then Trump has determined that Iran having a nuclear weapon is an existential threat to America. So
So,
they are
so
willing to go above and beyond to be able to prevent them. And they will do that by putting 10,000 troops, risking hundreds of aircrafts, hundreds of special equipment, hundreds of commandos and special forces, and even the logistics to keep these people around just to prevent Iran from having a nuclear weapon. I know what that says. That probably talks says a lot about his resolve. That probably says a lot about there's some at least the intelligence that they have. There is some truth that maybe me and you don't see
Mhm.
and don't have access to. So yeah. So I look at what the length that he's willing to go, and it tells me that for him and many people who back him, this is worth it and they are willing to take the tap on this because it is worth it. They think they are ending a 47 year war. I'm sorry, you disagree. I'm on that camp, and they think they'll have to deal with the Iranian threat and blackmail once and for all. So they are willing to go this far.
I think at this point, Iran is more important to them than China and Russia. I guess that's how
I don't know. Well, maybe, yeah. I mean, China too is kind of involved in this way, not directly, but oh, the grand scheme of things, and we've talked about it. In my opinion, the grand scheme of things is to have world domination, and if you can prevent Iran, which is an ally of China, which supplies a lot of its oil to China,
Mhm.
then the U.S. has some world dominance that they have not attempted to secure in the last decade or two decades.
Mhm.
So Trump is doing a huge power play here
Mhm.
to maintain America as the dominant power in the world. And that means displacing allies of China. That
Mhm.
means destroying Iran's ability to be able to deal with China and,
Mhm.
kind of undercut China's ability to be able to take that spot from Trump. And so, yeah, there's focus on Iran, which is the main thing, but there's also a world power at play here that we are seeing it before our eyes.
Mm. Um, some people argue that one of the reasons why empires fall is because
Right,
they extend too much, they overextend,
right,
overreach. That is
right.
why the Roman Empire fell. That is why the British
Yeah,
Empire fell. That is why a lot of
yeah.
empires do fall. They argue that America seems to be getting in the same trap where they
Mhm.
overextend to the point where they become weak because instead of concentrating your forces on one or two things, you have 10 different things going on, which means you have to split up
Right.
and you have to
Mhm.
divide your forces, which in effect makes you weak. That is the argument that people are making out here,
Mhm.
and it seems
Mhm.
like Donald Trump seem to be the president who is going to overstretch the
Mhm.
United States Armed Forces. Again, with involvements all over the place, involvement in the Gulf. Yeah.
I think you're exaggerating that a little bit.
No, let's
I
talk
really
about where
do.
they let's talk about where they're involved in. I think
Right.
that is
Okay.
the argument
Yeah. Let's.
I'm trying to make. Involvement in the Gulf,
Mm-hmm.
involvement in Ukraine, which is
Mm-hmm.
draining, of course. It is draining.
Yeah, yeah. But
America does not supply the manpower for Ukraine, but they
no,
supply the weapons. These are
right.
weapons which
Which
have to
is backed by
continuously
Europe, which is
Europe
backed
does
by
not
the
really
ability for you
produce
to.
much. I mean, if you if you
But I
if you
mean, Europe has been called to back the financing and the
yeah, no,
buying
it's
of
not
weapons
about
for America.
money. It's about the ability to produce. Europe buys
Okay,
most of its weapons from the United States,
right.
right? So America's ability to produce the weapons, and that's why people have argued that America was running short of bombs and
Missiles.
missiles to use, air defense and all that, because America is produces these weapons and then distributes them to their allies. It's not like Europe
Right.
has a significant weapon manufacturing capacity, right? They buy
Mm-hmm.
from the United States. So the United States is feeding Europe, it's feeding Ukraine, it's
Mm-hmm.
fighting a war in Russia, it's feeding Israel, it's feeding
Yeah.
Taiwan, and then they have more than 800 other bases around the world.
Right.
That is overstretching. And then, of course, now they have the what do you call it, where they not the Monroe Doctrine. It's been adjusted to the Trump something something doctrine, where now they are focusing on the Americas, right? That too takes significant resources and manpower.
Mhm.
So my argument is, and this is the argument that most people are making, that Donald Trump is overstretching, and then at the end of the day, they are all over the place, but they are not strong enough where they are. And that is why some would argue that Iran is able to do what it's doing. That's
Mhm.
why some would argue that Ukraine does not have the weapons that they need for their own
Mhm.
war. That is why some would argue that if China was really serious on taking
Taiwan.
uh sorry, what's that?
Taiwan.
Of taking Taiwan, they might be able to do it because America is too stretched and too all over the place. Again, that is an argument that I've heard. I don't know how you see it.
Mm.
Again, America has
Well,
its limits for sure.
yeah. What did I say? America does have its limit, of course. They are not God. It takes a lot to be the world power. You cannot just do it by mouth, word of mouth. You have to have the military presence. You have to have the capability. You have to have the financing. You have to have the position and the zeal and the people and the drive to be able to do that. Okay, we talked a second ago about the power, the world power at play here, America versus China versus Russia and stuff like that. American troops are dying, and many are dying, and they consider it a noble cause for them to die so that America will return to world dominance. The America of the last decade or two that is pacifist, that is in the background, that doesn't want to get involved, that thinks that it's been abused by other countries. I mean, just look at recently, talk about the BRICS. These are countries that are coming together to topple the US dollar as the main trading currency in the world. Okay, I mean that's their right. They can do it. I mean, they're using their leverage to be able to pull that. Brazil, South Africa, what are the other countries? The other countries are involved there. Okay, um, that is a national security issue for the United States.
Mm,
So the United States has to use every means necessary to make sure that the US dollar remains the trading currency of the world.
mm,
And that means putting ships across the world, putting soldiers across the world, putting military commands in strategic places that no one has the ability to bypass you,
mm,
that everything must pass you. I mean, that's just the nature of the game. This pacifist lifestyle, like I do my own thing and you do your own thing, we have tried it. I mean, just look at the United Nations. All the pacifists, we just come together and we hold hands and sing kumbaya and dance along together. That is what has led to us where we are today. I think the world is returning back to where world powers have to dominate. The people who are willing to die for a cause, the people who put in money in their defense, the people who are willing to go and promote their way of life elsewhere. It's what we're returning to. All these United Nations, African unions, whatever. You can see how ineffective they are. All these even the IEA, they all the Iran, we do not have the ability to check Iran's development or enrichment of uranium. Then why are you there? You don't have the ability, you don't have a way to enforce it, you don't have a way to check and even tell us where Iran is at. So why do we even need you? Is there any reason why people are withdrawing from all these global organizations? Because they have basically become futile. They are ineffective, they cannot enforce anything, they have been controlled by the leftists. So I mean, at the end of the
controlled by
day,
the United States, more or less.
I don't know necessarily, I don't know
I
by
mean, they
United
are.
States.
I mean, the United Nations influenced by the United States a lot. All of
No.
these, the IEA is influenced by the World Bank. At the end of the day, the United States has control over all of these institutions that you're calling. So, who is failing who? I think that is a question to ask.
Well, but you also have to think about this way. When rubber hits the road, when it comes to, because at the end of the day, you can have all this enforcement and all these documents and whatever. That's fine, but who enforces that? You have no armed forces, you have no military, you have nobody to enforce that. How do you? It's just a piece of paper. If I tell you you cannot enrich uranium and then you enrich, how do I stop you? These people have to bag. They have to count on the military of some other country. Who else do they count on? The UN doesn't have. I mean, the UN has a collection
I
of
don't believe.
peacekeepers from the world.
If you ask the nations in the world whether or not they are counting, they will tell you
Excuse
that
me.
we do not want the United States to be the world police. Everybody will tell you
No.
that. Listen, let me substantiate.
Yeah.
The United Nations has structures in place where once the United Nations arrives an agreement,
Right.
nations bring contribute to their military, and then they implement the decisions of the United Nations. It's not like yes, there's no standing army, but when they arrive a decision and say the General Assembly arrives at the decision and say this is what we would like to do, then nation states donate or contribute or provide the manpower
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
affect whatever decision that's been
That's
arrived.
been decided.
So
Hmm.
yes, it does exist. Now, the reason why it's not effective is because the United States has a veto, and they veto everything. Russia has a
Hmm.
veto, China has a veto, France, Britain.
Right.
Once they veto, that's it. It doesn't matter
Hmm.
what the General Assembly wants to do.
Right. Hmm.
The United Nations is
So
stuck.
the general they're effectively useless.
It is used. I'm agreeing with you that even
Right.
though they have the structures in place, the veto by these 5 Security Council members does not allow the United Nations to operate in the manner in which they were designed to operate. They were not designed to have a standing army. They
Well,
were
but you also
designed
have
to
to.
agree
Sorry.
and then to
Sorry.
provide the army to execute the decisions that we arrived at.
Hmm.
And which to me is it's an appropriate way of doing it. Rather than having
It
a
is.
standing army, we bring an
I mean, you also have to know how these global organizations came about. First, we had the League of Nations, then we had the United Nations. First, we had the OAU, then we have the African Union.
it's the same people. It's the same people
It's the same thing,
changing the
but
names
then
and still tying the
right,
organization
right,
as an organization's hand. They change the
yeah,
name. It feels like it's a new thing, but again, they have their vetoes. There's
right.
nothing you can do if
Well,
the United States vetoes a
better
decision.
stuff,
That's it.
right? Yeah, I mean, the point I was trying to push is,
Right.
um, these organizations have very limited ability to be able to enforce any decisions that countries have arrived to.
Of
Like
course,
if you arrive to a country and then the big power says no, like you said, the veto powers of all these big
it
countries.
ends.
What if the big country disagrees?
It
Okay,
ends.
I mean, and we also need to know how these organizations came about. They came about the First World War and during the Second World War. So countries were like, we're done with war. We should not be killing each other. Humanity has been through a lot. Let's just come together and maybe we might agree on everything and we can just hold hands and do. But that's not the case. People still disagree. And when you disagree, the issues that require you putting soldiers on the ground, I'm sorry, but the best soldiers, the best military has to win. Okay. So it just tells you whether you have a resolution or not, it remains on paper until you have the ability to forcefully enforce what is on the resolution. So if you don't have that military backing, the military might behind any resolution, all you do is just talk, and that's it. You
And
cannot
yet,
enforce
and
it.
yet people are surprised why we would make the argument that Iran needs a nuclear weapon. North Korea has one, Pakistan has one, India has
So
one.
it comes down to the power.
It,
You. So it doesn't really.
it has always boiled down to
Who
who
has the
has
power?
who has deterrence,
Right.
and a nuclear weapon is deterrence that
It's because Iran is seeking power
every
too.
capable state should have. Talking about power, I mean, Iran is a second tier, third tier power compared to the United States.
They are seeking powers.
But can you
They are seeking power.
different argument here? I'm making a whole different
Yeah.
argument.
Okay.
Iran is a third or a fourth tier state
Right.
in terms of military capacity. But you see how much of a resistance or a deterrence they have put up when it
Yeah.
comes to the United States. Again,
Imagine if they had a nuclear weapon.
imagine if they had a nuclear weapon, there would not be a fight. This whole thing will not be happening.
Or they would have used a nuclear weapon.
But why would they use the nuclear weapon?
Why not?
Why would they use it?
Why not?
No, you give me why they would. They don't have it. So you say if they had, they would use it. Why would they use it?
Well, because they want to destroy their enemies, because they want to eliminate the country out of the face of the earth. So why not?
North Korea has a nuclear weapon. They don't like.
They are not going around. Well,
They
the
don't
North
like the
Korea is not
United
going.
States, but yet they haven't used it on the United States. Again, the whole reason why people
Well,
have
but it's different.
as a
It's different.
deterrent
You can't
is
just say that in
because
person. It's different because North Korea is not saying death to America, death to Israel. It's
doesn't
different.
mean they like them because they are not saying it. Does not mean
Yeah,
that they like the United States.
that's true.
Nobody,
That's true.
really, nobody likes the United States at this point. Nobody.
Oh, Israel does.
Unless you're Saudi Arabia or nobody wants the
Or
United States
Qatar,
around them.
or
Or
UAE,
Qatar or
or
UAE
Oman,
or Oman.
or Oman.
Yes. Who else?
You just said nobody. I would just listed like
And I'm
5
giving
in the
you. I
last.
mean, no. I mean, Jesus. I mean, even Europe does not want to be involved in this crap, right?
Okay.
So at this point in time, nobody. I'm sure that even the
Okay.
Saudi
Okay.
Arabia,
Let's flip the
I'm
question.
sure that really
Let's.
they do not like the United States
They
at
don't
this
like.
point in time.
Yeah. Fair point. Let's flip the question. Who likes Iran?
Iran does not go around boasting that people like it. So their numbers are
But
probably also limited.
well, okay. Let's not say like who is cheering for Iran's ability to have nuclear weapons.
No. Now you're twisting the question.
No,
Nobody
you said
is cheering for Iran to have nuclear weapons.
why
I've not
not?
heard anybody say
Right.
we want Iran to have a nuclear. I don't know anybody who's cheering
Yeah,
for that.
why not? No, I agree with you. Why not?
Because again, we don't want nuclear weapons anywhere. We don't even
Well,
want the United States having a nuclear weapon. Really?
oh,
If you
we
talk to
don't
people,
want,
they
but they
will tell
do.
you, we do not want nuclear weapons on this planet. Whether it's United States has been the most irresponsible nuclear weapon, nuclear power. They've used it twice.
Uh-huh.
They are the only states who have dropped used a nuclear weapon at this point. Only the United States, right?
Yeah.
So we don't even want the United States having a nuclear weapon.
They have one.
I heard 2 days ago, or was it yesterday, that Donald Trump went asking for the nuclear code. I
don't know.
Did you hear?
No, I didn't.
You should check the story after this. There are reports that went to his and asked for the nuclear and started asking for the nuclear code, and it was turned down. Why do you want to know the nuclear codes, Mr. Donald Trump? Why do you want to know the nuclear code at this? Why?
Does he know? I think he knows already.
I don't think he
knows. As a president.
If he knew,
no, I think a president is supposed to know.
The report is very clear on this.
Yeah, okay. I'll read it.
Again, like I said, I will. But again, I heard this from reliable, prominent commentators uh, on the network, right? You can find out. You can read about it. But yes, he went around asking for the nuclear code. So, by the way, to be clear, we don't want nuclear weapons. If all of these states with nuclear weapons could say, okay, we are going to destroy it and nobody should have it, I'm sure the rest of the world will be happy. The only people
Yeah.
who are happy about nuclear weapons are those who have it.
Right.
That's it. The only people who are
I
happy
mean,
about nuclear weapons.
stop talking like the Pope. You're not the Pope. We don't want people to have nuclear weapon. True, that's what we don't want, but people have it. That's the reality we have
Yeah,
to deal
but
with, and
you
some people
can't.
are trying to enrich it.
Yes, but if you have it, why should the next person not have it?
Oh, so we do want people to have
Is
it.
America more responsible than North Korea? No. Is America more responsible than Russia? No. Is America more responsible than South Africa? No. Is America more responsible than every other state that doesn't have a nuclear? Is Pakistan more? Do you think Pakistan is a stable state? But they do have a
No.
nuclear weapon. They
Yeah.
haven't used it.
Hmm.
So the point I'm making here is that a nuclear weapon, except for the United States, most of the countries who've managed to get the nuclear weapons are using it for deterrence as opposed to using it for attack. America is the
Right.
only country that has attacked another state using nuclear weapons.
Yeah.
We might never conclude from there.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you want
never.
to
Oh,
land on
never.
that
That's
conversation
it.
and then we talk
Yeah.
about one more thing and then we go. I don't think we're going to talk about the Pope
I
today.
know. I think we're done. We just know on different spectrums in the country on that.
Perfect. So, your predictions for the next week.
I don't know. I really don't know. I hope we can come to some sort of a permanent ceasefire in the next week or so. I hope Iran can have a united front. They can
Mhm.
get a government that can speak on their behalf, and we can agree that Trump's point is very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's really the crux of this issue. So, if Iran can make a compromise on that issue, I think a lot of this fighting is going to stop.
You've talked about what you hope for. I want you to talk
Yeah.
about what the realities are on ground. Not
Well,
what we
Iran
hope,
is.
because what we hope for is completely different from the realities, right? So next week,
Mhm.
considering what you know is happening on ground, what do you see happening?
Right. Um, I don't know. I see Iran dragging this, and USC they will probably have to go again and do some bombing to be able to force them. That's all I see.
So in effect, this is just a pause.
This is
And
just a
there
pause.
is more
If
to come.
Iran doesn't come to the table, I see Trump reversing,
Iran is not
stopping
coming
all
to
of
the
that.
table. So let's
Okay.
let's
Okay.
I mean, I do agree. I do agree with you that
Okay.
this is just a pause. And
Hmm.
the argument I make or I would like to make is this: the United States assets in the Gulf area have depleted quite significantly. They are
Hmm.
using this time to
To
rearm,
restock.
replenish, to restock. In my
Hmm.
opinion, they one of their aircraft carrier. I don't know. Some aircraft carrier is a few days to arriving at the Gulf area. My argument is that once this aircraft carrier comes, they probably would have enough aircraft carriers around. They would have enough assets around. They would have enough weapons and support
Right.
to start another campaign on Iran.
Another round. Yep.
That is my opinion. Some people are anticipating the aircraft carrier gets to that area around Friday, and they hope
Yeah.
they are anticipating um another round of fighting starts almost immediately.
Fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, we agree.
Yeah, no, we do agree on that fact. We hoped it was
I
different.
do. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
again, like we
I hope
say,
so
hope
too.
and realities are not the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to end the grown up?
No, I think our disagreements are long-standing. We have a lot of agreements, but I think we just view it differently. Um, we trust different people. We trust different sides. So yeah, but again, respectful of each other's opinion, each other's point of view, and stuff like that. And really, at the end of the day, that's what we want to push through on this channel. That we may disagree on stuff, we may be passionate on certain point of view, but there's nothing that conversation cannot resolve. Hear each other out, disagree respectfully. I think it's what we want to push through this channel.
Okay, that's it, folks. You guys have yourself a wonderful day, night, depending where you are, and we will see you in the next couple of days. Thank you very much.